All right, we are on the record. I call this meeting to order, and I ask that everybody please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mr. Clerk.
All right, Gary Hefner,
Here.
Susan Mitchell,
Bonnie Takeuchi.
Here.
William Clark.
Here.
Bronwyn Rowntree.
Here.
Chris Scanlon.
here.
John Michelle Tijerina. We have a quorum.
Have we heard from him? Do we know if he's coming later?
I assume he's planning on being here.
But I haven't heard it. Okay, that's fine. All right, welcome everybody. We may have some things to remove from the agenda, either by tabling or otherwise later. But as to the proposed agenda that went out, do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Gotcha. You got them turned up
That
today.
was that discussion there?
That was.
That was it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So that passes. We're going to start with, if you're ready, with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Hebner, and good evening. I always begin here with reading off our mission. The mission of the Tuxedo Union Free School District is to engage students in the pursuit of knowledge for academic success, productive citizenship, and the development of personal potential in our diverse and changing world. Working together as parents, staff, and community provide a safe and secure learning environment where our teachers deliver instruction to meet the needs of each child, and the Tuxedo STEM Academies prepare students to meet the challenges of a rapidly changing global information.
Oh, we had you. We lost us.
That's okay.
Striving together. Look at that, Dante. Thank you, sir. For individual success in a global community. Before we dive full on into our reports from GFB and GGM, I'd like to take a quick minute here to acknowledge our board members. The National School Boards Association recognizes School Board Recognition Week this week to recognize school board members for their commitment to New York State public school children, recognizing that school board members' service should be a year-round endeavor, but designated 1 week here to highlight these volunteers' efforts to ensure they receive some of the thanks they deserve. In School Board Recognition Week, it's an opportunity to raise community awareness and understanding about the role we have within the school district. And as a token of our appreciation on behalf of the district, our administration team has provided some locally sourced treats for our members to enjoy this evening and throughout our executive session. And truly, we thank each of you for all that you do for our kids, our community, our school, and our staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. Yay.
To begin our report here, I'll jump in for GFB as the school principal, and we had a successful back-to-school night on September 25th, and thank you to our staff in their efforts for putting that together, our families for attending, and our National Honor Society students for volunteering. The SAT exams took place on October 1st, followed that evening by Mrs. Oliva running our financial aid night for families, and PSATs were on October 9th. She had a busy couple weeks there in guidance for us. The first 5-week marking period ended on October 6th, and yesterday was Breast Cancer Awareness Day, sponsored by NHS and NJHS. Today was School Picture Day, and retakes and senior pictures are on November 20th. The week of October 20th to the 31st is Free SUNY Application Week, and that same week, the 23rd to the 31st, our GFB students will participate in Red Ribbon Week. Our school participates in this initiative with themes each day, and will include social emotional learning. GFB will host our GGM students, our neighbors next door, as part of the festivities on 10/31, and on October 10, selected under participate in the County Alcohol and Drug Awareness Council Red Ribbon Kickoff events at Goshen High School. We did participate in the countywide emergency release drill this past Friday, and staff AR evaluations are all set to begin this week. In athletics, students have had an excellent fall thus far, highlighted by our volleyball team, who I've been notified have won their division already this year. and their senior night is next Wednesday, the 22nd at 5 p.m. The boys and girls cross country team will compete in the Orange County Cross Country Championships on October 25th, and the section finals are scheduled for November 4th. And we'll anticipate that our volleyball team also will participate in both postseason sectional play and potentially at the state tournament. I'd like to provide a quick update. I spoke last week on our current situation with two openings that we had within our teaching assignments. That was foreign language at the elementary school, as well as a leave replacement for our library media specialist. These have been two tough positions for us that we've been working on filling since July, uncovering all stones to be able to do that. An update for the board and the community, you'll see on the agenda tonight, we have a 0.5 AIS math teacher, and just a quick breakdown explanation. We were unsuccessful in being able to find a certified Spanish teacher for elementary. So as we shared at the last board meeting and discussed with our community members, that we are shifting that to another special area in our menu. So we are shifting that to STEM. And Ms. Klimowicz was a hybrid teaching part-time math AIS and part-time FLES in a full-time position. She will now primarily be teaching, not FLES, STEM. She will primarily now be teaching STEM to our students. So instead of foreign language at the elementary level, they'll receive an extra dose of STEM instruction. And then we have on the agenda this evening a candidate to fill the 0.5 math piece of that position. The digital library media specialist position is at this time still unfilled, as we've not been able to find a successful certified candidate or a candidate certified in another area to fill that. Despite many attempts at calls for interviews and some demo lessons, and we've just not landed yet currently. We did repost that position and are exploring some other alternatives. And I'll keep both the board and the community updated on what that looks like, and pending approval of 0.5 candidate, I'll be able to families tomorrow an explanation of all of this. So I just wanted to provide that update for the board and our community. And shifting here to George Grant Mason Elementary, Principal Parks report, highlighting Peace Day celebration from September 25th, led by Mrs. Foligno. Our students and staff participated in activities centered around kindness, unity, and global citizenship. And the event strengthened our SEL focus, aligned with our goal of a welcoming and affirming environment consistent with the New York State standards for social emotional learning framework. Back to School Bubble Show on September 26th, sponsored by the PTO. A joyful and interactive way to welcome families back to school. Spirit Day, they geared up for a great year on September 26th. The PTO Scholastic Book Fair was the 30th through the 3rd. We thank them for leading that event, connecting families to literacy at home while generating funds for our classroom resources. In an academic and instructional focus, walkthroughs have focused on the domains of engaging students in learning, and there was an author visit with Jay Maletsky, I hope I said that correctly, on October 8th, encouraging students to see themselves as readers and writers with a message of perseverance, connecting well with our literacy goals. Of course, with safety at the forefront, Fire Safety Week was October 5th to the 11th. Mr. Rattazzi and students participated in safety lessons. The fire department visited, providing an engaging hands-on learning experience, and our students got to take a great tour of the truck outside. It was a great day here for us. We also participated in the Orange County Early Dismissal Drill on the 10th, and they also will participate in Red Ribbon Week, the 23rd to the 31st. This year's theme is Life is a Puzzle, Solve It Drug-Free. And the Halloween Parade will be on October 31st, always a community tradition, bringing families together to celebrate creativity and safe and structured setting. Lastly here, our PTO membership drive is backpacked home tomorrow, and we encourage your support and participation. Parent volunteers remain essential to our school culture, supporting book fairs, author visits, and family events. And our upcoming EGM starting next week, and scheduling for that has begun. And that concludes our report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to committee reports, I would note that I believe there's now three written reports. Matt, I'm not sure if you got all three of them. Some of them went out today. But I like to incorporate by reference and copies, and we'll post all the written reports. I'm not sure you have all three. But three now exist. So we'll get them all to you. Doesn't have to be right this second, but we'll get those to you.
Do you want an oral report as well, or are we just gonna reference,
I was just
direct
about
people
to,
to the?
I don't want to put people on the spot, but I was about to say, any committee chairman who wants to give it, highlight something or point out anything else, now's the time to do it. All- So the bottom line is we'll just continue because as long as we're recording, people can watch it post. Yeah, right. We prefer live, but we're not going to stop for that. Nobody can hear it. Okay. Sorry. We think the recording audio is fine. Okay, just keep trying as long as the recording, people have to, unfortunately, have to listen non-live.
Could it help to like shut it off and turn it back on? You know, because okay.
Dante, you can ensure we're recording though to be able to post it tomorrow in the event we can't get on. Okay. Good.
If anybody is listening, the doors are open.
Right,
If you can't hear us well, we are recording this. We are assured that the recording audio is a separate technique, but that is recording well. Okay.
Just because this is new with the emailing the public comments, I think it's worth it just to mention that if people want to email public comments for later, start doing so now so that we have a chance to review it.
So back toward the agenda. Sorry for that. Sorry for the technical delays, but we are working on it. Does any committee chairperson wish to highlight something or add anything to the reports that will become part of the record, but do that now orally? Just volunteers, or you don't have to.
So we're calling it the wellness committee now because I guess there is a safety and or health and safety, and then we also had a health and wellness. So I think that to decrease confusion, I think it would help to just call this committee that used to be the health and wellness committee the wellness committee. So for the wellness committee, we met last night. The primary focus was to find out more about what we're currently doing for our social emotional learning. Mr. Kamar, sorry, was in attendance and he gave us an overview of what the ruler is all about. And it was very, very helpful to get like to get an understanding because I don't, as a parent, sometimes we don't find out about all the things that our kids do in school, and I hope that through that more education can happen so that parents are understanding what the rule is about and how they can apply it at home to really get carryover at home. So we are also looking into some other supports for our students in terms of like character education. There's a program called Safe School. Is that the full name of it? Safe School Ambassadors that we are currently researching because it was used to be used at our school and was very successful. So we're in the process of getting more information to see if something like that would be helpful to bring back to our students to really teach them about character education and leadership. I think that's probably it for now. For the policy committee, we haven't met yet, but we are working on creating a policy committee. So just wanted to keep everybody informed that we're hoping to get that happening within the month.
So the Student Success Committee so if anybody's interested, you can look there for more detail. But there was um, two things that I wanted to highlight on a high level. So one is we're really trying to dig into the data to understand our academic performance and help us brainstorm ways that are data-based and data-driven to improve that performance. We're focusing for the time being on GPM, but if people have ideas for GFD, and we're primarily focusing on GPM because the New York State test score for GPM. So the idea is please feel free to share them with me or with the board generally, and you can look through a little bit more of what we're doing, and we'll continue to update as we arrive at the data, collect the data, and synthesize it. The second sort of broad area that this committee looks at is extracurriculars. And we're looking at a number of things, but one thing, and this will all be dependent upon funds and the availability of teachers to sponsor these clubs, but we were hoping to find ways to promote more extracurricular activities at the late elementary and middle school level, particularly extracurricular activities that were not athletic related. And so if anybody has any suggestions of activities, some that were suggested during the meeting were a program called Odyssey of the Mind, which I'm familiar with it. It's a great program for late elementary, middle school kids. And there's a middle school mock trial program, but open to suggestions. So if anybody has any non-athletic programs are great too, but we already offer those to some extent. So we're trying to find activities and programs that appeal to kids in other ways. So that's it for student success. There's more on the website.
The outreach committee met for the first time yesterday, late afternoon. So I don't have as many takeaways. I can tell you that I think we have a great working group. And if the adage holds true, that if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Very busy people. That's why we had such a hard time getting a meeting together. But I think we left all feeling that we had some takeaways, some homework to do, and that we will have a nice report for you at the next month.
Yeah, so for the contingency budget committee, sorry, I didn't send it to this afternoon. Just a couple of questions at the beginning. Point one on Walter on the budget transfers regarding certain points you could see at point one A, B, C, D, E for budget transfers relating to chief school administration salaries, legal services, being over and above, public information services also being at 71,047, teacher salaries at 151,800, and contract transportation for 148. Those are on the budget transfers document that Walter provided. Also, the appropriation report, I think, should reflect the contingency budget as a sort.
Walter's trying to write quickly, but I believe we'll get those to you in writing. So you don't you don't have to listen now. We'll get them to you in writing.
I'm just basically reading.
He was writing furiously.
Chris had forwarded some appropriations questions, and I have a couple of check warrant questions. So
Yeah.
Following, and then maybe we'll give him a list later.
Yeah.
After we come out of executive.
Yeah, so this is just relating to budget transfers report and the appropriation report. I sent you an email with it, but it was until late afternoon. Sorry about that. So we can move on to the next one. And legal services and chief administration salaries, which left with zero balance available. In return, in relating to the auditing, is there an audit report?
It's on the agenda later for the audit committee. That's a separate committee.
I was asked to chair the audit committee. Is that correct?
I'm gonna chair that.
Are you going to chair? Yeah. Am I on the audit committee?
We'll get to that later in the agenda.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to I reached out to members of the school relating to reaching out to the auditors regarding timelines, key objectives, collaboration with the auditors as a board liaison. And on that we should meet with Jared and the auditors, obviously, before the official presentation. The contingency committee, we are currently, so we are at a point, we had said when we established these committees that in October we would start populating the contingency budget committee. So I've been exploring that, still seeing if anyone's interested, in the public or anywhere, please reach out to me. We're exploring who may join, and we'll have a team. We look to have a team in place in the coming month to meet prior to the next board meeting. In terms of income generation, I think there's been a discussion across the board. Bonnie, that was a fantastic outreach committee meeting last night. I really enjoyed that very much, and a source of tremendous ideas and fodder for moving forward. Income generation, we've been having discussions with Jared, Walter, and board members in terms of possibly renting out space to AA, senior citizen programs, community activities. We're in the brainstorming phase, but it'd be great if we come up with some valuable ways to move forward on that. We are also looking for how to improve programs and how best to effectively market TUFSD in collaboration with Lennar, as we explored last night, to potential incoming residents, parents, notably from the reserve. From the outreach committee discussion last night, we're also looking to grants from organizations and corporations who may have vested interest. I think Adam Iron had some great suggestions with NVIDIA, Palantir, other corporations that Lennar might want to help us with. The board continues to discuss staff consolidations and reductions. Board members and the committee have been offering suggestions on how to best explore collaborations with TPS, Tuxedo Park School. Both TPS leadership and we, TFSD, aim to meet soon. For instance, to explore joint sports programs, academic and community programs, lectures, and social spirit interactions between students and our communities here. Through the outreach committee, we're also looking to build an alumni support and donor network. We're looking into other schools as well with similar student body sizes to compare their budgets as we look to assess the $15 million budget we have here for the 171 students and see how other schools are operating. Like Bonnie mentioned last night, there was a very interesting article a few weeks ago on this topic that mentioned Tuxedo Union Free School District. And then specific to the 26-27 academic calendar, and after many community and school member suggestions, I would like to suggest a study to explore for September of next year on what winterizing the elementary school might look like. Thank you.
Any questions or comments beyond those reports? So I would remind the public again that where are they going?
Are we being solicited to contribute?
Yes.
How much are you looking to raise?
No, well, that's time to donate. You just go. There'll be some Facebook stuff on that. Sure. Okay, OCSSBA report.
Okay, so that's the Orange County School Boards Association, and I am our delegate. So I went to the meeting, and it was incredible. There was a delegate from every school, mostly of Orange County. It felt really amazing to be a part of such a big group. And basically, so I'm just going to describe it to you. It was like, it's basically a big meeting. They have their own president, secretary, treasurer. I was a little bit lost at the beginning in that part. I hope to pick up quickly, pick up on how they work and get involved. But basically, after they ran their meeting, they did a presentation. And the presentation was focused on the role of the school counselor in the schools and how the school counselors. So she gave a couple of one of her slides I felt was really important, so I wanted to just kind of mention it here. And it was, what can school boards do to support school counselors? One of those is recognize the counselors as instructional leaders, which she shared with us. A lot of what a school counselor does is I didn't know, and one of that is pushing into the classroom as tier 1 intervention, where they go into the classroom and they teach alongside with the teachers and about topics that relate to counseling and preparation for college. She went on and also about, let me just see for a second. Other things that school counselors do that are trauma coaches. They serve as intermediaries between teachers and students, enabling them to have productive conversations when there's conflict. They gather perception data. In her school, they organize bilingual family nights, and just in general connecting with families who have not English speaking as their primary language. They're key liaison to them. She talked about like the mental health crisis that happened after COVID, and how it really impacted the middle school age, and that there was a lot more mental health issues with middle school age kids, and the importance of having support for those kids. And in her school, they increased school board. $250 student ratio, but that is the standard. So if your school had more than 250 kids, they recommend more than one school counselor. So I think we're falling in line with, we're very staffed well when it comes to having one school counselor. So that's my report. Anybody questions? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to share that Will and Bonnie and I went on a building tour led by Brendan Iron, and we looked at the facility from top to bottom. Literally, we went down the roof, we went in the basement, we saw like everything, and from that there were some highlights of things that need attention. So I thought it would be helpful just for us to just go through some of the things that we saw that were that should be priorities. One of them was a safety concern with the railing outside of this building, where the handicap entrance, the railing is actually detached from the ground. If you hold on to the railing and shake it, it moves. He's looking into repairing, and I think we should make that a priority in terms of getting funding for that, as it is a safety issue. His fix for that was, I thought was really smart. Instead of mounting it into the cement, on the upper level, he mounted it into the grass, which was much more secure. And he suggests that we do that for the entire railing. Do you want me to continue going through the list, or do you want to butt in?
No, yeah, I mean, I don't think Brendan's came with a report.
Right, but Brendan, were any of these new items, were these items you showed the board members?
Some of these are old.
Right, so you have this list and there's a plan for everything. So maybe in the future, we make a presentation of the facilities plans to fix all these things. Does that make sense?
Well, it does to a certain extent. We're going to be voting on appropriating money from, we're going to be voting for appropriating money from one of our capital expenditure funds. So that being said, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be voting on tonight is going to be money out of an allocated fund specifically for these items. However, there are other items that are extremely pressing that are going to need to have to be budgeted for in the future. So that being said, this is something that we're going to need to kick around is, how important is the chiller and the, and the heating condensers over the new wing at the high school versus, having ourselves a man trap or a generator or, some of these other things that we're currently going to be spending money on. So going through the facilities now, it becomes apparent that we do have, a few $1 million at minimum of repairs to keep our, to keep our campus healthy. So, and that needs to be noted to the public.
Yeah, and if some of these things break, which are very old, it could really impact our ability to keep the students in the building, and it can cause, a big issue with having to relocate the students.
Brandon, I've been aware of some of these problems for years. Some of these problems are decades old. But I'll talk to you offline about, in the next month or two, you doing a presentation on some of the plans to fix these problems, which is the real important part. Because finding money for these problems is going to be the issue. So in advance, we're going to have to ask you to prioritize balancing urgency versus cost.
It should be noted too, which is obviously done there.
Right.
They're building surveys and they have, their own recommendations, based on the age of the buildings and what have you. So we need to look at what they've written and compare it to our notes and
So
come up with an action plan on keeping the campus together.
to be clear, our full-time professionals and professionals from the outside have been reviewing issues, problems, and projects ongoing. This recent tour was for the board to have several members see eyes on exactly what these projects / problems are, because we're the ones that are going to have to prioritize what gets fixed and what can we fix based on monetary limitations.
I think it was just very helpful to be able to see what we're talking about. And I just wanted to thank Brendan for taking the time to do that. And anybody, as a new board member, if you haven't taken a tour with him, I think it's very valuable.
Yeah. You guys get the opportunity, so to book a little bit of time, that'll be very helpful.
Anything else on this? All right, moving on to the personnel agenda. I'm going to preemptively ask everybody to ask questions before anything is pulled. But 4.3, the motion to approve the consent items will include pulling 4.3 from the agenda. We'll also acknowledge that any vote by Ms. Takeuchi will not include 4.4 or 4.6, portions of which she's related to those people. So you can still vote because we're acknowledging it won't go towards the matter. So you don't have to recuse yourself. So short of that, are there any questions to hopefully prevent items from being pulled?
On 4.4, what's the connection for Bonnie?
Because Bonnie normally doesn't vote when Matt gets a stipend for something.
On 4.4?
one in the packet.
Single sheet.
Yeah, there's a stipend there for intramural basketball. Bonnie would normally recuse herself.
Oh, I read that.
Trying to save time, right?
Okay, yes, I saw that.
Before we pull, I do have a question. What is the start date for the after-school reading and math? If it's approved tonight, do we have, time frame at which it's gonna start?
Yeah, to be determined at this time. So once approved, they can begin any time thereafter. And Principal Park will work with the candidates on here to develop programming. It's up to 40 hours per stipend. So they would come up with a plan based on the availability of the staff, the targeted group of students, and then they would roll that out.
Are the grade breakdowns gonna be fairly similar? In the spring, we were alternating, with the sports part of it. Because of the gym being so used, there's no sports in this quarter, part of the year. The math just takes a classroom space. Do we know which grades be together?
What we'll do, Ms. Takeuchi, Principal Park will meet with both candidates. They'll look at the targeted groups. They'll come up with their plans and days. And then as long as it was ready to go, come the November meeting, we'll provide an update on that. They'll take a hard look at the students, the grades, the levels, and what they're going to be delivering there.
Four, three. Yes. Any other questions? Yeah.
Pulling other things or just?
Well, that's my next question was, is there anything that has to be pulled because we couldn't answer a question? What do you want to pull?
Well, I guess then maybe I have another question.
Okay,
before I
ask
pull
all the questions.
So the other question would be, exactly how the handwriting and movement, could we have a little more explanation of that?
I'm just confirming, I heard that I was multitasking there. The handwriting and movement piece from Ms. Larder.
Yes.
So we've found that, Dallas Larder is our OT specialist. And one of the things from COVID that we see, especially in our primary and intermediate grades, is movement and mobility, dexterity, especially when kids are behind the keyboard. So a lot of the skills associated with handwriting become quite difficult. So she would like to tie in a handwriting and movement component into some literacy work. So every open to students K through 5. Sure. Thank you.
I had another question because so just for clarity purposes, we also are currently, my 4th and 5th graders have started the Jungle Book Kids. Miss Ling is starting art club, is starting this club, and then also GOTV appointed Mr. Skinner will also be starting components of our math and reading club. So once I have all of them hopefully appointed and approved, then I can meet with them in scheduling. But because the play has just gotten up and running, to not conflict with the practice, the crew, the singing, the acting components, that's why the schedule's not quite set yet. But it will be, yes, Ms. Talk on a rotating basis within grade bands, just to be determined. Can you stay there for a second? Because another thing that the OT can do is push into the kindergarten classroom to be working with all the students during classroom time to help them on those skills. Does she do that? I'm not quite aware on her scheduling exactly. They do screening processes as the students enter kindergarten. Most of them
were in our preschool, so they got screened before the year started. And she pushes in for students who are pre-screened and determined to need those OT features. So I don't know about all students, but anyone who is determined under the screening to need the services are provided with the same individual.
It might be something you want to explore, just to have her spend a period of time in the class to work with all students, just like she would be doing after school.
And it is open to caregivers, so they can be given extra support during that time as well.
I don't know if this is the right time to ask about varsity basketball. Is that later on the list? Because I see we have the approval of the JV basketball coaches, but where is varsity? Is there going to be a varsity team?
So we would run, right now we would look to run a JV boys basketball program based on the anticipated numbers, signups, skill level of the students. And then what would happen, do you know, Mr. Tuck, the opening day off the top of your head for winter sports? Week before the board meeting is the 19th, and they're going to be starting a week or two before. I don't have the exact date in front of me. Yeah, this would allow us to then begin, and then if numbers come out differently to evaluate, we could always flex and adjust. But based on what we think that we're going to see, in conjunction with our athletic directors, our coaches, that this would best serve the kids that we have right now.
Okay, because I know with the volleyball we had approved both, and then you were going to, like you said, then you would determine once the kids came out and you figured out, but we just did it ahead of time. That way this time.
In this scenario, we think this is where we're going to land, and then we can adjust that differently. Where with volleyball, we were hoping to try to pull off and thought that we might be able to do that, and then once they got started, it was determined we couldn't. So then we pulled back.
Okay. I would be interested in getting more information about, why they weren't able to continue with the JV. And in general, what we're doing to help fill our sports in so that we don't have to have teams that have kids who want to play who can't play.
I'm not sure. I'm just direction.
Yeah, we can look at, yeah.
If we want, I think that's something, if we want answers, we're gonna have to dig for ourselves, so.
Okay, we can look at the
Okay, great. Anything else under the fours? Okay, so to clarify, I am gonna ask for a motion to approve all these items, but in the same motion, pull 4-3. And as long as it's not a single vote majority, acknowledge that Bonnie's votes don't go towards Matt's stipend. So do I have a? Right. So do I have a motion for that? Is there a second? Well, okay. Is that going to be after executive session? Okay. So I'll amend my motion to also pull for agenda purposes, but not off the agenda, just delaying for now, 4, 5 also. So do you accept that amendment? I have a second? Any discussion as to what we're doing now? Yeah, so we're doing 4-2, 4-4 with Bonnie's little asterisk, 4-6 with Bonnie's little asterisk, sorry, not demeaning that, but, and 4-7. I just want her to be able to do it.
And they will be consent.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on consent. We pulled one. We got to get back to 4-5. Moving on to the 5s, I think there are going to be a lot of questions. So I'd like to ask Walter to come up.
Are we gonna vote on 4-3 independently?
4-3 is pulled,
Okay.
like from the agenda.
From the agenda, okay.
Right.
4-5 is gonna go to exec,
Yes.
and then we're on the 5.
Everything else is done. So we're up to the 5s. So just whether it falls under them in order or not, but for any of the 5s, we have a technical issue. Okay, good. Glad we kept going. So any questions for Walter under any of the 5 agenda items, all the business reports. For the record, we're going to pull from the agenda the approval of bids for the 2023 capital project, which is 5.3. So I'd ask that you reserve any questions about 5.3, so that's not for tonight anyway. So 5.1, 5.2, et cetera, 5.4, 5.5. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. We still might come back to that, but not before executive session.
Yeah, that's what we're going
So
into.
for questions purposes, still don't ask questions about 5.3. Any other questions?
Gary, on 5.2, Walter, when you received the contingency budget questions report that I shared,
Yep.
you'll see there's some questions on the budget transfer and the appropriation status.
Okay. And actually, Walter, before you take any questions, I want to let the public know that we've started a new system internally, that between meetings, we have dozens and dozens of questions for Walter, Jared, and other people too, and we're getting those questions to them on a regular basis, daily and bi-weekly, and they're responding in kind. So if you notice less questions at these board meetings, it's because between the board meetings, everybody's doing work and the administration is doing a very good job in answering questions that are minor, informative, not really controversial, but so then we're more well prepared for these meetings.
Perfect.
Yes. So any questions for Walter?
Yeah, Walter, on the appropriations report, I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
So on page 1, A,
Let him catch up. He's pulling the right forward.
okay,
Appropriate.
5.2 to 5.2. Page 1, A 1010.404, which is the Board of Education membership dues. So there's an unbudgeted adjustment increase of $2,000. The current budgeted amount for this school year is $77.50, and the additional cost is $97.50. Why is there an increase in the membership dues cost this year?
So what happens with that particular item is that's a carryover from last year. So what happens is if we write out a PO from last year that's budgeted for, we may or may not expense that PO. So what happens is because that PO is still outstanding, meaning we haven't paid our obligation for last year yet, that carries over into this year. So for that particular example, that was for policy manual. It was the PO was for $7,000. We spent $5,000 on it. So that since we still potentially owe money on that PO, it gets carried over into this year.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody have any questions? No? All right, next one. Page 2, A 1620.400. The line item is operation contractual. It was a non-budgeted item of $1,068. Can you provide more details what the cost is actually for?
Yes, so that one is for Campbell Fire Protection. So this is a 12-year fire suppression system maintenance in according with the manufacturer's requirement. And then this one was also one of those that was carried over from last year. I believe it was paid in July of this year.
Okay, great, thank you. Next one is page 2, A 1620.406, operation training instructions. There's an adjustment of $560. Is this training for existing staff? Please provide more detail. The previous budgeted cost was $2,500, and the new budget line item is $3,060.
Yes, so this training is for our O&M staff that we do. It was one of those two as well that was adjusted from last year. We paid for it in August of this year.
Okay, so these were carryovers.
Yeah, these were carryovers.
Okay, I just want to be transparent to the public.
Sure.
So and you can take a look at these, they understand exactly why these went up, so thanks for the explanation. I got just a couple more, page 3, A 1620.505, operation cleaning supplies. There's an adjustment increase of $2,339.70. The original budgeted cost was $16,000. The new line item is $18,339.70. Can you describe what the cost was for what were the required supplies? I see various check warrants, but not sure which ones actually applied to the adjustment increase. Could you explain?
Yeah, of course. So this one was another PO carryover. So the PO was written in June, and then items were ordered like paper towels, floor shine wax, but we didn't receive the items or the invoice until July. So then it was paid out in July.
So these are all trailing companies.
Yeah, these are all trailing ones from POs from last year.
Okay, got it. Page 4, no, page 8, A 2630.465, tech license subscriptions. There's an adjustment increase of $2,589.76, which is the original was $25,960. What tech license subscriptions are these for, and why were they not previously budgeted?
So this one, so this one as well was a PO from last year. So it's a 3-year renewal. It deals with our badge cards and swipe systems, like software maintenance and support.
Okay.
We signed up for it, it looks like in April, but once again, we didn't receive the invoice on it until August.
Is it standard for a lot of these invoices to come in this date?
Some do. Sometimes the invoices, depending on when you're getting the invoice, if it's a carryover from the previous year, you still have that obligation to potentially pay for that service. So when it gets added into the available line, it shows that we still have this potential PO to pay for. Some of them are liquidated at the end of the year, meaning we're not going to use that PO, but if it's some kind of service or something that we have paid for or expect to, or we haven't finished the service, it will carry over.
Okay. So all these different adjustments that were made were encumbered money from last year. So this all checks out. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question on this same part, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to understand, for example, there's a couple of places where the encumbered number is much higher than the budgeted or the expense. So there's 2 that I saw, and I just want you to explain to me when that happens, why that happens. So on page 5, A 2110.160, regular school teachers' aides monitors is one, and another example, and if they should be pulled apart, then tell me, but is on page 7, A 2250.15006, special ed, pre-K through 5. There's a significant increase in the encumbered and budgeted in this expense. What are those numbers consistent with?
So for the teachers' aides and monitors one,
Yeah.
For that particular number, so if there's particular contracted salaries for those items, they will come out of that line based off of those salaries. That amount gets encumbered. So that'll be the encumbered amount throughout the year. On that particular one, you most likely will see an adjustment on that. Because what we noticed was there was a particular employee who should be taken out of a different line than that particular accounting line. It's just the way that they were in the system.
So just the numbers are being moved to various other places within the spreadsheet. There's not an actual increase or decrease.
No, for that particular line, no, because even though it is a negative available amount, that was budgeted for in a different line item.
And so that's the same explanation for the specialized salary, where there's the negative one is what's entering available. It's just we can move to a different.
Yeah, also in special ed, you may have grants that get awarded throughout the year as well. You're welcome.
Walter, for the non-accountants, for Chris's questions, if someone were to look at this report, the items that Chris brought up, it looks like we're spending more money, when in reality, we're not spending more money. We just got a bill very late in the year, or we got the bill this year, and we don't pay bills before we get them.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was budgeted for last year. It just gets carried over though.
I just have two questions. For, it's on page 6.
The appropriation
A-
report? Same
yeah.
report.
Same report. A 2110.490, where it says BOCES services and the budgeted amount. And it looks like we used almost all of it. So what happened? What is that for, and what happens when we need to use BOCES services
So
again?
So for something like that, we have a budget amount for BOCES. We have a bill that we have to project throughout the year, so we encumber that amount of money. So the 46,000 you see is what is encumbered under that line.
It says 76,000.
Oh, sorry, 76. Yes. So if I don't know exactly what's in that line, but let's say, if I can give you an example, let's say we had a budget line of $100,000 and we're going to buy this service for $10,000 a month. What would be encumbered are the $100,000 knowing we're going to use that service for the 10 months of the year.
Okay, so you break down BOCES services into individual things. It's not all, like an all umbrella of all the services.
No.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, and then for the field trip item, which is page 5, A 2110.407-06, the regular field trips pre-K through 5th, $348. Was that for apple picking?
I'm not sure what that cost was for. I can find out though. It's an encumbered amount, but I can find out exactly.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have these hundreds of lines memorized.
Not all. I'm working on it.
Thanks, Walter.
Any other questions on this report? If not, any other reports for Walter?
Got a couple of dopey ones for you, Walter, just really quickly, Mrs. Kennedy's general question.
Same report?
No, this is from the check warrant.
Which is
Two of six.
Page number 2, have that. We're in the process of making one payment on the ELA curriculum for the GGM, right? So it's going to $2,800 towards the penalty.
Two
Right?
payments. Yeah.
Towards the 2 payments. And that curriculum is, that's a,
That's for,
Fundamental,
yeah, Foundations is our phonics work, and then Benchmark Advance is for our K-6 literacy work.
Another dopey one for you really quickly, rent, this is the basic line. Check from one to 100, still on page 2. And then you rent, $1,000 for that. Just curious.
Okay.
That's right. And then just one more, let's see. Last one is milk center. Okay. That's all I got for you. Thank you.
Anybody else? So, any questions for Walter? Stay there, please. But any questions under anything under 5, other than 5.3?
I don't have a question, but I just want to state on the extracurricular activities fund sheet,
Yes. That is,
the extracurricular activities fund sheet. You'll notice that the student council had a fundraiser, which we did at the train station. I want to thank the town for allowing us to use that. I want to thank the community members who generously donated all kinds of items. And also came and supported by buying things at this yard sale. It was a different fundraiser for us. We're always looking for great opportunities to raise money, and the kids are going to use a bulk of that money to help fund the trip to Dorney Park. So I thank the community and the town for giving us that opportunity.
For a motion, business consent agenda, we're pulling for now. Second, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Walter, thank you. We'll try to get you some of those questions.
I'm going to abstain until I receive answers on.
Okay, that's fine. So I missed that. So if I missed that, point it out. So 6-1 in favor. We'll try to get you some of those questions in advance next time. So
Didn't we have another line item for Walter?
Yes, yeah, I'm sure I got it. I didn't check the email.
I'm not sure what you mean, like another beyond 5?
Yeah, it was beyond 5.
The extra
I had asked a bunch of questions regarding August. Actually had emailed to.
Because he's standing, that's probably under old business or new business, but he's standing there, so go.
So Walter, could you just go through? I asked a bunch of questions at the last meeting, kind of put you on the spot. I did send a follow-up email with all my questions. Could you just cover some of the things for the public, just so they can be brought up to speed on what I asked and what your responses were?
Sure. So I do have some updates on those questions from the September meeting. On public relations, what we spent through BOCES last year was $132,479.64. Home insurance cost from last year was $6,152.50. From the check clearance, the check number was 141034. This was O&R Electric. That was a bill of $5,637.80. Electric. Energy in 2022. Historical electric costs 22-23 cents. 23-24 was $89,644.11. Last year was $105,945.12. And these electric bills are meter read. There was another check of 141035. This was Green Chimney for $11,241.89. This was the committee on special ed, and this is a maintenance from Orange County to maintain, coordinate student care and IEP and residential housing at our Green Chimney School. Check number 141037, Shore Harold, excuse me, $7,067 retainer. So comparison 23-24, the budget amount was $45,000. We spent $54,008.60. For 24-25, budgeted was $47,500. We spent $83,332.92. And to note that these were other legal services that were done from other firms along with ours. There was a check 141033, Open Systems Metro, $3,660.48. This was service to perform an annual inspection of our fire alarm systems, including testing, audio-visual batteries, fans, elevator recall, magnetic safety school. Check number 141041, annual Mattel maintenance, $9,292. We've been using them every year, contract since 2010, and this is for our phone systems. They handle equipment, service, etc. with that. On transportation fuel, check number 141042, $5,876.06. This cost was lower. We did have less field trips, and we consolidated some sports trips, and we did have less buses sent out. The tanks are still on Woolrich Brook Road, where the buses are parked. Then there was check number 141045, GFD Water of $2,000. $806.76. Last year was $2,528.86. Historically, from 22-23, $17,458.55. 23-24 was $20,786.19. And then last year, 24-25 was $18,949.76. There's a question regarding our the TAS, which is Transportation Advisory Service for our busing. Looking back, we did use this service 5 years ago. At the time, the management cost was $14,000. This included out-of-pocket expenses, and additional services at that time were $900 per day. For that 3-year contract, we did pay the $14,000. And then in 23-24, we hired a private transportation consult, which happened to be the same person who used to work for TAS. The cost to that was $9,032.15. So the total cost for that was $23,032.15 for the 5 years. Our consulting service, it was asked in comparison. So it's $17,500 out-of-pocket plus out-of-pocket expenses of $1,500. Out-of-pocket expenses include anything from parking fees, shipping charges, postage, road tolls, and those type of expenses. And then if we have any additional site visits, it's $1,200. So we're looking at estimated cost if we maxed out our expenses of $19,000, and then any additional day of $1,200.
Thank you. I do have one question to go back to the electric. So in 2022 through 2023, we're 79,957, and last year we went to 105,945. That's a 33% increase.
Yeah,
that's massive. Is there anything that's triggering such a large? Is it the energy costs gone up? You may not know off the top of your head, but after you just read that to me, it just seems like that's a pretty large number to go up over a 2-year period, 33%.
I'll look into it.
If you could, I'd
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Anything else?
I'm good.
I want to thank all the board members who diligently go through these financial reports line by line, and any possible red flag discrepancy, etc., is brought to the administration's attention. And I'm glad publicly we're explaining that there is either he knows off the top of his head or he finds the answer. All the administrators and all these questions are answered, so thank you.
I'd help.
And thank you, Fred.
My team helped me out. I got to thank them as well.
One day we're going to find something that's, I don't know, fraud, waste, or abuse, but we haven't found it yet.
We don't want to find that.
Well, this is all the hard work. Got to be something, but maybe. Okay. Anything else for Walter? Okay.
Thank you, Walter.
So we've passed 5. So for future agenda items, which we're just going to really roll into new business. We have 3 particular items on the agenda, but then we can open up to other new and old business. So progress on the New York State Civic Seal for diploma.
Sure, just a quick update on the seals and just a quick explanation. There are 2 seals currently that we're implementing and or exploring, and these are for the New York State diplomas. They've issued a seal for biliteracy and a seal for civic readiness, and we explored last year implementing the seal of biliteracy this year. We've done that. We're rolling that out in an attempt to, there's a December application to then hope that several of our students could qualify for that for June of 2026 for biliteracy. The seal for civic readiness, much more arduous and comprehensive of a application process and development for achieving the seal of civic readiness. And there's an August 1st deadline for June of 2027. So this year would be exploratory to look at, is it something that we could offer for our kids? Is it something that we could put together during this year to potentially offer that? It is pretty cumbersome. I did meet with our social studies department as well as several of our other key staff, just to have an initial exploration discussion of, there's a 97-page state manual to go through to begin the process. So we needed some time to really go through that and dive into it. Our next meeting is, although not scheduled, we discussed coming back in November to try to find some time for our team to sit down and pour through that. I was able to find out that prior, a couple of our staff were able to attend. The state only began rolling this out as
had in place by a certain date?
it's not mandated. Districts have the option to apply to do it. So it's not a mandate or something we're out of compliance with. It's just a great opportunity for kids that we want to explore.
And with other schools in Orange County, have they done it as well? And have you networked with them and found it, has it been successful?
Yeah, I know there are some schools that have done it already, and that was part of our query to Ms. Helhosky, to just kind of, get a list of who's done it so far that we could connect with to try to get some information from. Just a quick anecdotal, there's coursework attached to it. There are service projects that can be part of the rubric. There are benchmarks that you can accrue points on based on your scores on Regents or AP exams. So several of our kids we know will align with some of the points that you would have to accrue, and then we have to explore the feasibility of being able to offer the other points. So I'll be able to provide an update though as we get more information.
This is introduced earlier on. This is like 6th grade and on up, right? They have to.
Yeah,
this is an accumulation type of.
Can you speak up a little quick?
So this is introduced earlier on in their scholastic careers, right? Like 6th grade or something like that. And they have to build up to get that onto their diploma in the 12th grade, right? So it's not something that the 12th graders do, and it gets stamped on their diploma. It's something that you introduce almost school wide. I don't know if it goes before 6th grade, but it's a long term. You want to have for the entire school. That you introduce early on in elementary school.
Yeah, there's levels of points based on coursework and then based on project and service work that can begin as early as middle school. So kids can do like a middle school capstone project where they're identifying service within the community, where we would develop like a rubric and a criteria, and the kids would sort of present what they want to do for their project. But then also you can develop pre-K or K-12, we certainly want to look at as we develop ours, the possibility of like, what does civics look like across the whole continuum? Because it's a great idea to introduce it, elementary, and then once they hit the middle school years, there's courses that they're taking, and then project and service hours that they can do. And then primarily the coursework is high school. They can accrue points based on mastery level, which is 85 or higher, on both the U.S. Regents exam and the Global History Regents exam. And then there's elective coursework that we could tie a civics component into that kids could qualify, and that would have to be something we would need to explore for our course menu.
So it sounds like this should be like a district goal. Do we have this formally, or do we have district goals for this year, where we could make this part of our district goals? Well, I'm just curious, because by this point, we're supposed to have board goals and district goals. So, No, I don't, honestly don't know what's, you have to kind of educate me because I'm new to this. Like, what would be a board goal versus a district goal? But this sounds like something that would be very good for our school. And I'm just trying to figure out where we can put this, make this formally a goal for us. Because I think this. So is this like written on our website where people can see what our goals are?
I don't think we're at that point at this point. I think this is more exploratory still.
Website, I think it's premature because we want to make sure we're going to do it. We decided to explore it. Right. That's just, yeah. Well, everything we do is a goal. We're doing it. We're checking out this civics program.
So by next month, can we,
Well, he's meeting in a month. I was going to say December, January.
okay,
Which is better, December or January for an update?
Yeah, I'll keep you updated, and I'd like to stress that word exploratory, and to Chris's point, we may look at this and see, to your point earlier, like maybe this is something that has to begin with our current middle schoolers and it progresses up based on the rubric and the requirements. We're just taking our first glance at it and peeling it back, and it could be that cumbersome that you know, we're processing 4 years out, or maybe we can't do it.
Right.
But the goal would be to, you know, take a hard look at this and see if it's an opportunity.
I personally think this is a great idea, that we should do it, but there could come the day where we just can't for whatever reason. But we haven't come to that yet, so I'm presuming the exploratory is going to be successful, and they'll be disappointed if otherwise, but we're progressing as I expected, which is we asked you several months ago to re-engage. We looked at this a while ago, meaning years ago, but we're interested again. We've tasked you with pushing it forward. So we'll ask you in December for an update. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
All right, extracurricular basketball. You looking for an update? Is that taken care of?
That's taken care of.
Okay. So we can move that from the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
4.4.
Okay. Audit committee update, just officially, I will be the chairman of that committee. So officially, if anybody wants to participate in that, contact me offline after the meeting. Let me know. We'll work with the staff, but also, obviously, we're already geared up for our independent auditing firm to do what they have to do. They come in and, when are that, will be done in about a month? Ballpark. So when we get that, we'll be ready to respond.
about getting a second set of eyeballs on it. We look at the cost of doing that, and where we would go for that. I believe it's a both series.
We do have that, Will, and I meant to forward that to you. I have that information, and I'll send it out to you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So again,
It
that's
was,
not, it's something that,
Yeah, it was through Suffolk BOCES
okay,
as where you help provide that information. I have the cost set up for us for you to consider then as a board. Is it something that we want to pursue now or look at for budgeting for July 1 to do for next year? So I have that for you.
awesome. Okay,
Other new or old
Thank you.
business?
thank you.
2 items I had. One item is that board has been looking at the, I'm not sure what it's technically called, but the swipe system, looking at the attendance records and the official attendance records of the school, looking at that with the actual swipes of staff coming in. I realize there's issues with deliveries, et cetera, but we do currently have a policy of everybody should be individually swiping into the building. God forbid something happen, and we need to know for any type of emergency, who's here today, who's in the building right now, who's not in the building. So I just want to put it out there that it's something that's going to be continuing. We're going to continue to ask for those monthly reports, which will be compared, meaning the swipes versus the attendance. We're looking at irregularities. We're looking for trends. So everybody should be on notice that that is happening, and it'll be continuing happening throughout the year. So once, at some point, the board itself may be looking at policy changes, but we already have a policy of everybody swipes in, single point of entry. So if someone were to look at the computer at, say, 8:45 in the morning, you know exactly who's in the building, who's not in the building. So that is a reliable, accurate, 100% proof of what's going on in the building. And if it's not, that person or persons would be in violation of current board policy. So I'm trying to make myself clear. Anybody want to add to that to make that clearer? Okay, so we will continue to look at that. A second item I have, which is old business, it's came to our attention, meaning the board's attention, the last a few meetings ago, that there may have been currently some type of ban in place for both.
Can we discuss that?
Sure.
Can you stop you where you are?
That's
Because
fine.
We should talk to legal counsel about it.
Yep, we can do that after.
Legal counsel.
Okay. Everything else I think we covered on my list. Everything else has been pulled or covered, so that's it for me.
There's one more thing, just a shout out to Susan, because I know she can kind of do this since time began. Well, I think we really are technically supposed to have board goals. I think we can probably meet as a group. It doesn't need to be public session if all we're doing is board goals and not just official. So maybe we could set as a goal to do our board goals before the end of the year, and maybe that just means we get together on a night off and like sit down and do it so that we can be in compliance with our requirements and how big it is.
One of the problems with trying to find a date, how about we try to do it at end the meeting, the November meeting, but then stick around and do that.
Sure, and we can
only-
communicate
as a
offline
guest, right.
about all this stuff in advance.
And the
so
chart has a,
yeah, and we can just get it done.
yeah, our internal communication chart has that, and there's, the only thing on it is the one thing that I put.
Yeah.
We should post some goals to that chart.
Yeah.
So how about that we'll tentatively plan to stay after the November meeting, unless the problem was finding a date.
Yeah.
So we know that date's good. It might be a late night, but if everybody can, well before that date, start adding ideas, good ideas, bad ideas, incomplete ideas, adding that to the chart. If you can't figure out the chart, someone else can add it for you, and then we can have some discussion and see if we need more time another night. Good?
Are there currently board goals or recent board goals that we can look at and see some of them may be goals that we want to continue with?
I can pull the prior year goals for you and share it with the group.
So maybe we'll actually just add that to the chart, like at the bottom.
Yeah, Jared, actually it'd be helpful if you could add a couple of years, not just the immediate prior year, but a couple of
And I think what I found, what I was alluding to before, which I find confusing, is if you go on the website and you go to district goals and board goals, like the last district goals on there is 2023 to 24. There may have been other versions of it, but it just was never updated. So my request is just that things get updated. So that's all there.
Any other new or old items?
Can I make one more request? But this enrollment report is super valuable. I love, I like referring to it. It would be helpful if there were like columns so that we could see like how it compares month to month. Because I have to go back to the old agenda to look to see where September was and what the changes were. So even if it was just like in a parentheses next to it, like we went up a student, went down a student, just so,
Keep it rolling for the year.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Thanks.
you can see the months.
Is the current enrollment report just, did we just add one student? 170, 171?
It's a snapshot, so you're asking for a more rolling report. That's a snapshot of whatever day. Right. Okay. Does anybody here want to speak during the public comment portion of the meeting? Did we get any input? Okay, so 8-1 is now complete. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of seeking legal advice from our counsel, but possibly other items that would be appropriate under Section 105 of the Public Officers Law, Article 7? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? I do expect that there might be action when we come back. Are we up? Are we up? evening, everybody. Do I have a motion to return from executive session?
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.